Hey guys, RV Odd Couple here. This video is going to be different from most of our videos, and there might be portions of this video that are hard to watch, but I promise you that this is a hill that we have to die on. You guys know that John and I are the odd couple because we're complete opposites, and I hate doing these types of videos, but this is a video that I'm very passionate about because of the repercussions, not just for us, but for our kids. Because at the end of the day, I don't think you and I really matter. I think it's the next generation that matters. And that's who I'm thinking about in this video. We're gonna show you 4 really quick segments. We're gonna put them all together, kind of illustrate a big picture of what's going on.
Mao's Cultural Revolution.
And I ask you guys to please stay to the end because I'm gonna give you actionable items, solutions that you can implement. Whether you're a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, I believe that we all have a role to play. And I'm gonna talk about that at the end.
Guys, it's time to stand up. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it, comment below. We all have to come together to stop this insanity.
So let's dive into it. The first segment that we're gonna show you, it's super quick, and it's a concerned mother.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am a lifelong North Carolinian. I've been in Wake County for most of my life and received my middle and high school education right here in Wake County Public Schools. I'm here today to express my concern about the priority of academic advancement and our need to invest more resources in the right places and less in the wrong places. This particular book is called Queer, the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens, and is in high schools throughout Wake County. I'll read some of it for you. Just as there are many different types of relationships, there are a gazillion ways to have sex. Not all gay men have anal sex, nor do all lesbians like oral sex. Not all trans guys wear dildos. It's a rainbow, darling. You'll need to figure out for yourself what you like at some point. Have patience with yourself and get plenty of practice to enjoy sex. Don't worry, very few people will turn down the opportunity for more practice. It talks about touching and rubbing. Genital stimulation can come from any part of the body. You can use your hand or hips or feet, or you can rub your private parts on someone's thigh, arm, genitals, butt, and ankles. You may stroke his penis, insert fingers into his anus, or insert fingers into her vagina. It goes on to talk about anal sex. This can involve penetration with the penis, fingers, or a sex toy. For care of the sex toy, it talks about the anus has lots of bacteria. When spread elsewhere, it can cause problems. If you're going to use a sex toy for anal penetration, be sure to use one that is silicone as long as it doesn't have electrical components. Just boil it for 5 minutes and run it through the dishwasher. Penetrating the anus with a foreign object like food can be dangerous. So don't think about it, even if it seems like a good idea at the time. Exploration is a big part of sex. You might find that you're into some weird stuff. Although if you only knew how many people were into weird stuff, you'd realize it's not so weird. Some people like to role play, dress up like animals, tie each other up, wear leather and high heels. Hey, whatever makes your toes tingle. There's no reason to be judgmental about consensual sex. It also goes on to talk about monogamy, that some people like to be with one partner, some like to have others. Either option is okay. I think it's easy to see that this book is of concern. This book is not informational, it's instructional. It's an all-out endorsement and encouragement and playbook on how to discover the rainbow. In other words, to be promiscuous. This book sends the readers, which in our context are teenagers, on a journey to be promiscuous and to explore all kinds of sex. And let's face it, we're talking about teens. If they're exploring their sexuality in such a intense way, they're not studying. They're not preparing for their futures. Let me ask you a familiar question. Is this 4th grade? Will this be on the SAT or the PSAT or college entrance exams? Let's go back to being a school.
I couldn't believe that this reading was for students. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. There was so much there that I just thought was so inappropriate. And you could tell that the person that wrote this book had an agenda, and you could tell that they had a way of viewing life and that they wanted to impose that on our kids. So that's just one little piece of the puzzle that we're trying to build here. The next piece I want you to listen to is a lawmaker, and I want you to pay very close attention to the words that she uses. I want you to listen to the words that come out of her mouth, like the surface words, but then I want you to pay attention to the meaning behind those words.
Change the words, change the culture.
Affirming a child's gender identity is in their best interest, which is what your question is about. Why does it actually say that in an affirmative way? And it really is because if you have a 7-year-old who's talking about having a potential to say, being able to articulate that they believe that they are not the same gender as they are biologically, then it should be affirmed. But by saying and rejecting it in wholesale, then you're essentially rejecting your child. And that is not in the best interests of a child. We should be affirming our children in every possible way and getting them whatever appropriate care they need.
So notice the use of the words such as affirm. The word affirm has a positive connotation, right? When we say yes, we answer in the affirmative. Affirm is a good word, right? And think about the opposite of affirming. You certainly want to affirm your kid, right? Because if you're not affirming your kid, what does that look like?
It's rejection. That's why these words they use mean something deeper than what they say.
Exactly. And so what they're saying is that if you don't affirm or co-sign
or sterilize your children.
Exactly. If you don't do this, then you are denying your child. And then listen to the second part that just made my hair stand up. It was the piece where she talks about that it's a parent's job to determine the next right steps, the next correct course of action. That sounds very reasonable. Any reasonable adult, provided any situation, should determine the next reasonable course of action. This sounds fine, right? But what is the reasonable course of action that they're really suggesting here?
They're saying they're going to take your kids from you because you shouldn't have them. They're calling it abuse.
The guiding principle behind all of this is that affirming your children is good. The way they're using the word affirm, I disagree with that statement. Now, yeah, you want to hold your child up, you want to help their self-esteem, but that's not what they're saying here. The whole premise of this legislation is that it's good for the child to be affirmed, which brings a deeper question. Who decides what's best for a child?
A parent and God.
Right? So this is saying that the state knows that it's in the best interest of the child to be affirmed. But is that what you agree with when affirmed is being used like this?
This is all crap, you guys. What they're trying to do is they're taking impressionable children and they're putting a new ideology or ideas in their head. And then when these children think that they can be biologically something than they really are, the state is saying we have to affirm that as parents. Kids get depressed. Growing up is tough. Girls suffer from this more than little boys do. But the fact is, life can be hard. And the answer is to not cut off your penis or cut off your little boobies.
They don't outright say that your kids are not yours, but they are, because they're deciding what's best for your kids. But this is a small piece of a bigger picture, a bigger agenda. And if you're still with us, I beg you to listen, because this puts it all together. When I heard this, it was like, oh my goodness, it makes perfect sense. This gentleman is going to go macro, big picture, because what's the ultimate goal here? This is no longer a movement of allowing different people to live how they choose to freely live. This is a movement of changing how you're gonna live and changing how your kids live and changing the language that you and your family uses and changing science and the doctors, your doctors, changing what they do and how they do things. So why is this movement so much bigger than just using a couple of different pronouns?
Guys, what would the alphabet people do if we decided to baptize all children in school and tell the teachers not to tell their parents? How would they react? I guarantee you they'd react a lot worse and a lot more fierce than we are right now, because Christians all over this country are sitting back and watching this stuff. We're doing nothing about it. This isn't a battle of flesh and blood, guys. This is an ideological battle of who owns our children. We own our children. Our children are not the government's children. They're my children. They're my bloodline's children. And what this man has to say is extremely interesting.
I love all African people, but I reserve the right to disagree with any lifestyle that threatens the survival of the traditional African family. LGBTQ is the new birth control pill. Why do I say that? 2 men cannot reproduce. 2 women cannot reproduce. And now they're even transgenderizing our children. Do you know what that means? They're manipulating and indoctrinating African children to undergo sexual surgery so they'll never be able to reproduce again. We are not looking at this LGBTQ thing the way we should be looking at it. It is birth control and racial extermination. Why you think Kamala Harris is traveling throughout Africa, trying to convince African countries to legalize gay marriage? Why does America care how Africa chooses to run its society? What do you care about marriage in Africa? Because if we can invade African culture to the point where we can manipulate African children into same-sex relationships or outright transgenderism, which is the extermination of your bloodline, we can start predicting the reduction of the African population. They'll never be able to get rid of all African people, but they can damn sure make a dent in our numbers. But more than that, they can disrupt the natural, traditional, healthy, cultural way that we live our lives, build our families, and run our societies. LGBTQ is one of the greatest weapons of white supremacy.
But this is the systemic sterilization of children, and one could easily argue that there's a racial component to it.
This is depopulation, guys.
And what's terrifying is that this is being done in the name of inclusivity when really it's the most exclusive thing we could do. The big irony here is that those mean white Southern Christians actually care more about the future bloodlines of black babies than the
Isn't that the truth?
LGBTQ people. That's crazy.
So who's the white supremacist here? Who's the racist, you guys?
Look, guys, I promised you that we would talk about the solution and we would talk about what you can do, right? The first thing that I believe is the solution is to homeschool your kids.
Get your kids out of these institutions, you guys. The government has taken these institutions over and they're trying to steal our kids from us.
And I understand that there are some households where parents are not in a position to do that, which is why I challenge grandparents, aunts, and uncles. If you are retired or if you are in a position where you have time, would you consider homeschooling that child? These institutions get to spend 8 hours a day with your child 5 days a week.
They're raising our kids.
Who would you rather have do that? Would you rather it be a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a family member, someone that you trust? Or would you rather it be an institution that clearly has an agenda?
It's time for all of us to take responsibility for our children. Either get them homeschooled or give them to somebody that you trust that will homeschool them, or go to school board meetings and get involved with your community. Find out what they're doing, like that younger lady earlier that found that book on her kid's shelf. You got to do something. The time for sitting around is gone. It's history. And things are falling apart very, very quickly. So every concerned mom and dad in this country should be up in arms right now and getting more involved with their children's life. Or go to a school board meeting and make a difference, make a change, get involved and find out what they're doing in these schools. Because guys, they've been doing this in the schools for years and years and years. And it wasn't until COVID hit, when the kids were sitting at home and the parents started saying, what the heck are you teaching my kids, that we found out about this. They've been sneaky about this. They've been conniving about this. And now they're trying to say that they love our children more than we do.
I want to send a message to the entire community, especially to transgender children. You are loved.
And ultimately, if you're not willing to homeschool or not willing to go to the school board and really look at the curriculum, then you deserve to lose your bloodline because you're not taking care of your kids. You shooked that responsibility onto the government, and that's why you're getting what you're getting.
Guys, America, whether you realize it or not, is socialist and working quickly towards communism. We are a fascist state right now. The big corporations have joined with government, and they are taking our kids from us, and a lot worse than that. It's time to stop spending your dollars at these
Woke
corporations,
companies.
these woke companies. It's time to stop investing your hard-earned dollars with these companies like Vanguard and BlackRock. Any of these companies that support ESG, which is a way to undermine the people. Don't do it. Stop doing it. We vote with our dollar. All the greatest institutions in this country have been taken over by the powerful. They are trying to turn us all into serfs or slaves. They are trying to depopulate the planet. They're not hiding this. They're saying this out loud, right in our faces. They're proving it to us every day. It's time to stand up and do something.
This isn't about you. This isn't about me. This is about our kids. So please help us get this message out. We'll see you in the next video.